Thank you for tuning in. My name is Tiffany Davenport, and this is Small Expression, where kids have a very powerful voice. Today I have with me an educator and a clinician of over 30 years. He brings today a wealth of experience, and he's been gracious enough to come and share with us some of his experiences and what he's seen with kids. Welcome, Dr. Gary Hughes.
Thank you, Tiffany. Glad to be here today.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you do, and your passions, anything.
Sure, excellent. I have to tell you first, I have the best job in the entire world.
Awesome.
I am the principal of John Trotwood Moore Middle School in Green Hills. And being the principal of middle school is a daily fascinating journey.
I bet middle school's tough.
It's
for kids,
it's beyond
and I'm sure.
terrific. I wake up each day and can't wait to get to work. It's that
Wow.
wonderful. My background is in child clinical psychology, and I'm a licensed senior psychological examiner. And about 15 years ago, I transferred my knowledge from that and my skills to being an educator.
Okay.
And teaching special education. And went to Vanderbilt and received my doctorate, and here I am.
Awesome. Well, I just want to kind of pick your brain a little bit. We hear a lot about kids today struggling with issues that it seemed not to be so prevalent maybe just 10 or 15 years ago. It certainly seems like they have a lot more pressure with just social media and peer relations, and they're exposed to a lot more, certainly. Sure. I just want to talk about some of the contributing factors, some things you've seen, some trends, and some solutions that you have seen work over the years.
Sure.
What do you think is the #1 contributing factor for kids making negative choices that may eventually land them into alternative school, juvenile, stuff like that?
I'm not sure there is just one main factor. The fact is, I think it's a combination of a lot of different factors, and how those factors play out is really dependent on each individual child's situation. So really what we see, the primary factors: poverty, a lack of parental involvement, access to the health care that children need, mental health care and physical health care, and just the involvement of the entire family in the child's education. It plays a critical role in that. If you look at all the factors that affect a child's education, you look at the parental involvement. A lot of times the parents don't know how to be involved, what they can do to help their child. We have parents at my school who aren't involved because they had bad experiences themselves in school and therefore shy away from being in the school. We have parents who just don't know how to be involved.
Yeah.
We have parents who are embarrassed because they feel they may not have the knowledge or the skills to be able to help their children. And then you're dealing with poverty, and when you're dealing with pretty intensive poverty, kids who come to school who are hungry, or who are sleep deprived, who've been up all night, or who have domestic violence going on in their homes, all of those things come together to create a situation where kids have a difficult time learning.
Yeah.
So they're not getting their other needs met, and really it's more about survival at that point, not about education. So you see this pattern happen as a child progresses through the education system, and year after year a child falls further and further behind. When you get to middle school and you can't read or write or do math on grade level, the alternative to that, to avoid being embarrassed or whatever, is to act out.
Yeah.
That's often the times too that where kids get involved in drugs and alcohol, whether for personal use because they're experimenting as a teenager, or because it's a way to make money for the family. All of these factors, I think, come together to really create a difficult situation, not only for the children and their families, but for the school.
You mentioned survival, which for a child, I would imagine if they're constantly preoccupied with what am I going to eat,
yes.
Are the lights going to be home when I get home, that can be a pretty consuming thought at that age that their young minds are just not ready to negotiate that stress.
Absolutely. I think
there's no separation between home and school. You really need a cohesive unity between the two for a kid to have good outcomes, wouldn't you say?
Yes, absolutely. I think when kids come with those stressors, they look to the school to help them solve those.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, there's many times where kids come in and we provide free breakfast and lunch for all students, regardless of income. But kids come in
Which
hungry.
is awesome. Is that something that's new?
It's new for Metro Nashville Public Schools.
That's awesome.
Well, they did that this year because, just like my own family, we did not sign up for free and reduced lunches when I was growing up, even though I think we probably could have qualified. There's an embarrassment factor that goes with that, and a pride factor. So that the new program here in Metro really took down the barriers, and families don't have to be embarrassed about what's going on in their home, and kids have a place to come and eat and have breakfast and lunch, and a healthy breakfast and lunch. And I think it's changed the school dramatically this year, just having kids have access to that. We've more than doubled the number of kids who eat lunch and breakfast.
That's awesome. Kids have a lot of pride. I can remember some of my friends would have those orange tickets that you would tear off to get your breakfast or your lunch, and I was always curious about them. I didn't have those, but it kind of set them apart. You knew that it was something different if you saw a kid with those orange tickets, so now there's no shame.
No shame. And of course in middle school, you don't want to be set apart from your peers.
Absolutely.
You know, as you're in elementary school, kids don't look at the differences as much, but as kids grow through middle school, they notice differences among themselves, and oftentimes use those differences to not necessarily be nice to each other. Yeah.
What are some things that would identify a child who may be suffering from neglect in the home? What kind of things do you look for?
We're very fortunate. I've got a great faculty and staff, and we're all pretty keenly aware of what's going on in all the kids' lives. We know the kids well enough. Each of the kids in our school have an adult, at least one or two adults who really know them. Mm-hmm. So when they walk through the door, we're there greeting them every morning.
Okay.
So we know based on their body language, or if they're crying, or if just how they respond to us in the morning, if they don't shake our hand, or you can just see the upsetness with them.
Absolutely.
So we watch for those things. We often rely on other children to let us know that something is happening. We have kids who have confrontations with their parents, and those kids trust us enough, they'll come and talk to us about it. We work with their families, with the social workers. We work with having parent meetings and trying to help solve the issue going on with the child and the parent.
Mm-hmm. Which is awesome, because kids need some safe place where they can come. They may not be able to be honest with their parents at times about what they feel.
Absolutely. And
it's just going to continue to fester inside them and spill over into their academic career.
We take pride. My assistant principal is wonderful, and we take pride in being different than the old stereotypes of what a principal is. But kids come to us for all kinds of things. But if they're troubled or they're hurting and suffering in any way, they'll come to us and tell us, and then we make sure that we do everything we can in our power to make sure that we alleviate that suffering, so that we can get them in the classroom and help them learn and meet those educational goals that they're so far behind oftentimes in.
What are some, would you say, of the most prevalent type of behaviors? I know that, you know, you have some kids that are just flat out angry.
Yes.
You have some that may be class clown or acting out because they want some attention, which may not require an intervention, you know, but there's some kids that really need that personalized touch to kind of reel them back in and get them focused. What is some of that? What does that look like?
We have kids who get off the bus angry. Something's either happened at the bus stop or in the morning before they ever reach us. And so we have kids bring that anger into school and they take it to their classrooms. And you'll see it evidenced through just oppositional behaviors towards their teacher. The teacher may ask them, get your book out, and they'll say, no, I'm not doing it.
Just defiance.
Defiant.
Mm-hmm.
That's a sign that that child is really upset for that day. We don't have bad kids.
Yeah.
We have kids who are hurting, who, for whatever reason, on that very given day, are upset over something. But kids sometimes will get into arguments with other kids over menial things, or they'll bring arguments from the neighborhood in.
Mm-hmm.
And those cause problems when they fester in the school. You'll see other kids, middle schoolers are good at gassing each other up,
mm-hmm.
Just to see something happen.
Yeah.
So we don't necessarily see fights. We've had a few fights over the past 3 or 4 years that I've been there, but less than a handful. It's really more arguing and disrupting the school environment. But nothing major, but enough to get the kids in trouble.
Yeah.
And then although we have great teachers and a great faculty and staff, kids from different cultures and backgrounds sometimes come to school and their behaviors don't match up with the behavioral expectations of the school.
Gotcha.
So that often creates a conflict whether they're following the rules of the school or just basic things basic interactions and basic behaviors that help kids be successful in the classroom. The way they go about it may conflict with the teacher.
Gotcha.
And they often butt heads. So that's an issue that we often deal with, that we have to teach teachers how to deal with kids who are maybe not what they're used to having,
mm-hmm.
or help teachers understand kids from a different viewpoint, or to help kids to understand the kids from whatever place that kid is coming from.
Our learning environments are so diverse now. I subbed for a short while, and there was like a click over here and a click over here and
yes.
a click over here, and it was all cultural.
Yes.
It wasn't kind of like the mix of what I remember when I was in school. So it seems like it's becoming more and more segregated within a integrated environment, if that makes sense. I hear some things about gangs in schools and these fights that are happening, and I just wonder if this is new or where this is coming from.
We don't have that problem in our school. We don't have
That's
gang
awesome.
activity.
I use that word loosely.
Sure.
Yeah, just.
I think that some of the oddest things or most interesting things that I've seen being a principal have to do with conflict. We don't have black-white conflict at our school. It's generally black-on-black conflict.
Okay.
White-on-white conflict.
Gotcha.
But racial tensions aren't really there. The oddest thing is we've got kids who moved here from Africa,
mm-hmm.
and there's sometimes conflict between those kids and African American kids, and African American kids will sometimes pick on kids from Africa because their skin color is a different shade of
mm-hmm.
Brown. So
that's interesting.
I found that to be fascinating, and so the tensions there are apparent, but it's not what you would think. It's not black and white tensions. Black and white at our school is very much integrated, and our black families and our white families really work together for the benefit of our school. So it's the other, and that's really one of our primary focuses: teach kids how to interact in ways that will promote them, promote their education, but they're also their social and emotional health.
Absolutely. I would bet that those interventions are a lot more effective when the families are involved, when they're aware of what's going on and they can reinforce it in the home.
Absolutely.
Are there many opportunities to kind of bridge that gap between what the child is getting in school and those skills that they're learning, and make sure that they kind of carry over into the family environment, or the parents get some type of education?
Sure.
Because they're probably not aware that this is going on. It's news to me that there would be that type of tension between those two cultures.
We work with the families. We often go out to their homes and meet with them, but we need more outreach. A lot of it is just a trust factor.
Oh, yeah.
To let somebody in your home and to admit that your family may have an issue, it takes a lot of guts to do.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of trust building to allow the principal or others from the school into your home to help mediate problems and help design a solution so that, again, we take the child from a state of dysfunction to a state of equilibrium in social and academic and emotional health.
How much resistance do you see when you try to initiate those contacts?
It was more in the beginning when I first came there.
Okay.
Especially me being a tall, nerdy white fella and going into homes of African American families who live in the Edge Hill area.
Yeah.
But now I'm very much accepted by those families, so it just takes some time to break down the barriers. It's opening those lines of communication that are key.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you
sort
build
of building
the trust.
rapport.
Rapport, yep, and constant communication. Not just calling when something is bad or your child's done something, but having conversations with parents on the phone and in person that their child is excelling and what do we need to do to keep that going.
I bet you start to see those barriers kind of break down as they see that their child's getting better and their grades are going up and they're not getting in trouble anymore. No parent wants to come pick their kid up from school for getting in trouble, so.
Not at all.
Yeah.
I think people often think kids who live in poverty, who come to school, who misbehave, or who have struggles, that their parents don't care about them.
Mm-hmm.
I've never met one parent, one mother who does not love their child. They may not be able to help them the way they need to be helped. They may not be able to support their child's education the way it needs to be supported. But every parent who sends their kids to us, they love their child.
Yeah.
And that's our goal is to, everything we can do comes from that. So if we can get the family to be part of the school because they have that foundation of love for their child.
And the confidence that they have something to contribute to that process because they're so critical in it, I would imagine.
But we don't have to have college scholars to come in and be our partners. Any parent can partner with us if they'll allow us to.
Mm-hmm.
And we have so many resources that we go out and seek for kids, whether it be from churches or from businesses. We have 40 to 50 tutors a week who come in and work with our kids who aren't on grade level in reading or math. Those things make a difference.
They sure do.
And for kids who need somebody.
And those relationships, I would imagine, are so important.
It's the most important factor. So I've seen very great teachers who are very smart, very capable at teaching, but who cannot form relationships with kids.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids fall through the cracks. So we pride ourselves on our teachers being able to form those relationships, and teachers who have come through who aren't able to do that can't stay with us because it's first and foremost based on relationships.
You know, middle school seems like it's kind of the toughest group of school-age kids to work with. I mean, in elementary, they're babies, they're growing up, but you're kind of solidifying your identity in middle school, whether you're going to be an athlete or you're good at the piano, you're finding your interest. What do you see in terms of just kids being frustrated and angry at that age? I think I saw more fights in middle school than I did in high school, to be honest.
Sure.
And I've heard a lot of news stories lately about fight clubs and little things that they're doing nowadays. Have you noticed any of that?
You know, we don't tolerate that kind of behavior.
Awesome.
So that's part of our culture. We don't tolerate fighting. We don't tolerate bullying.
Mm-hmm.
We don't tolerate those fad fight behaviors that other schools have seen. We draw a strict line at that, and the kids know that.
Okay.
We just don't do that. That's not part of our culture.
Okay.
And kids who cross the line, because occasionally kids will make a mistake and cross that line, there are pretty significant consequences that go along with that. But, you know, our goal again is, to me, middle school is like the spring training for life. And
so well said.
Well, it's where you make mistakes, and we want them to make mistakes because that's where we can help them figure out how to deal with those kind of things when they deal with them in the future.
Okay. What's the role of the teacher today? It seems like it has expanded from just being an educator, but also a mentor, a disciplinary, maybe sometimes even a friend.
Sure.
You know, because there's some things, some pretty heavy stuff that kids are bringing to school with them that they need someone to talk to before they can focus on the learning environment. Do teachers have time for all of those roles? I mean, I'm sure they do the best they can, but what's that job description look like nowadays?
Well, it's unlimited. You know, it used to be teachers would come in, teach 8 to 4 or whatever the time, but they would come in and teach and then leave. It's not like that anymore. Our teachers come in an hour to 2 before school starts and stay hours after.
Oh, gosh.
And they are so dedicated. I'm so very fortunate to have a great faculty and staff who really care about kids, who will do whatever it takes. I've got teachers as we speak who on this Saturday are in Edge Hill tutoring.
Okay.
They don't get paid to do that, but they give of their time every weekend to make sure that kids who are behind, who are struggling, or kids who just need somebody to love and care about them, they have that. And so a teacher's role is everything: academic, social, emotional, and physical. The teacher has a responsibility to take care of the needs of the child. And the word responsibility is not right there, because no one gets into this business because they make a lot of money.
Right.
Our teachers love and care about kids, and they work hard, and they work long hours after they get home, grading papers and preparing lessons.
And they oftentimes have families of their own that they have to care for, kids of their own that they're responsible for. So it takes a tremendous amount of dedication to love someone else's children so selflessly and devote that amount of time.
But when you see it, when you see a great teacher and the magic that happens, and we have so many great teachers, you see magic that happens on the faces of the kids when they're learning and when they're happy and when they're growing. And middle school, I feel sorry for my principal friends who are elementary or high school principals. We have the most dynamically changing group of kids.
You do.
And it's wonderful to get to be part of that. It's truly an honor to get to see kids change as they grow older and see their interactions with each other and with their families change. It's magical.
Yeah. What about the community? How can we sort of bridge the gap between the learning environment and the community that these kids go home to every day? I don't know that there are many, I don't know, are there programs that kind of do that, or?
We have first of all, our PTO at our school is second to none.
PTO
our PTO, our parent-teacher organization.
Parent-teacher organization.
And the parents that bring their kids to our school, many of them can afford to go to private school, but they don't.
Okay.
They come to us because they want their children to have a great education in a diverse environment. But our parents are so committed to bridging the gaps between schools and homes, whether it be kids in poverty or kids who have everything in the world. But they are so dedicated to make sure that our community flourishes and every child has their needs met, his or her needs met. So we have parents that go into the homes of our children. We often have parent-teacher conferences in different places and not just in the school. We'll go to Edge Hill and have it there. We'll have PTO meetings in different places around town so that we
So
have...
not just in the school, but you're actually going out in the community, which I think is so important for not only the kids to see that their community is of value to the people that they learn from, but also the families. That's their home. That's important.
Well, a lot of times parents don't have transportation, or they work late, and we have the meetings where the parents can get to us quickly after work. So, again, we want all families involved, not just families of those who have, but kids who really struggle and their families struggle. We want to make life easier for them, and we can't do our jobs effectively without the parental involvement. So we count on our parents. We want them involved. It's just critical.
What are some major learning challenges for kids today? I hear a lot about ADHD being diagnosed, and I have a friend that was diagnosed, and it turns out that he was just extremely gifted and bored in the classroom. Do you think that's being overdiagnosed or misdiagnosed?
We have a lot of kids that have that diagnosis, and a lot of kids who take medication.
They're kids, though, so they're
children.
supposed to be hyper, right?
But you can see, because I'm a clinician, and it doesn't take a clinician to see the difference, but kids who really have that disorder, one, they have a background. There's some reason why they have the disorder.
Okay.
Whether they were premature or they were affected by parental drug use in the womb. So, but you see those kids, and you see them when they're on their medicine and how they function without it, and the challenges they face without the medication are unbelievable.
Yeah.
But then we have kids who are what I call the walking wounded, who may be a little distractible, who are misdiagnosed as a way of understanding, for the parent to understand why the child is not thriving like they should in school.
What do you see happen with these kids? Do they have the same learning outcomes and achievement outcomes as a kid that doesn't carry this diagnosis?
Some do, but you often see kids with that diagnosis fall behind for whatever reasons, because concurrently affecting a child may be a learning disability in math or reading.
Okay. Are there any breaks in our education system that may cause kids to fall behind?
Well, the academic decline that we see in the summertime is pretty significant, especially in high poverty areas. So
okay, where you're out for 3 months and you're not doing anything, and you come back, and then it's a challenge for you to, you lose your math skills and
families oftentimes who don't live in poverty have access to other things in the summer.
Yeah.
So they do their summer reading more frequently than kids who live in poverty. Their parents take them, and they have experiences such as going to a museum or travel that other kids may not have. So that often makes up for the decline and keeps the decline from happening. But if you're living in poverty and you don't have access to those things, and you're not doing your summer reading and so forth, you see a greater decline in those areas. We, in metro schools this year, for the coming year, all the principals have been given budget autonomy. So for the first time ever, I've made my own budget.
That's
they gave me
awesome.
a chunk of money, but I was able to budget several tens of thousands of dollars towards reducing that academic decline in the summer for our kids in poverty. So we can pay teachers to do tutoring and work with the kids throughout the summer so that we don't see that academic loss that we generally see.
Is it pretty significant?
It's significant, yeah. So you take those kids who have that, and when they start school in August, they're already 3 or 4 months behind or more than the time that they actually missed in the summertime.
Nashville has some of the best schools. I've read some statistics that says Nashville has some of the best schools in our state. There's something you guys are doing right. In your opinion, what is it that sets you apart from, not to criticize any other counties, but there's something that you're doing right that they can learn from?
You know, a few years ago, metro schools were not doing great. We were at the point of being taken over by the state.